It's going to be a PvT to begin with. Are you guys ready to rock? Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for any of you who don't know, Dreamhack is just now getting set up. It has just recently opened about an hour ago. Everyone's out there setting up their PCs, but the fine folks here showed up with nothing else set up. Thank you so much for coming out this morning, guys. It is time for Puma versus NightEnd.
Oh, goody. Oh, goody, oh, goody, oh, goody, Sean, because Puma is, Evil Geniuses has been putting together a real all-star lineup, and Puma, not Puna. Puma is, he's been performing as well as anybody. He's got a couple IEM victories under his belt. He was at MLG just this past weekend. Didn't finish as highly as he wanted to, but he did get quite deep. So I'm expecting good things from him here this weekend.
And it looks like here we are beginning. It's going to be those close by air positions in the north. From Team Evil Geniuses, it is Puma.
And his opponent, the blue Protoss player in the 3 o'clock position, the Romanian Protoss player, NightEnd.
Now, already in these positions, I mean, you can't bring up Puma unless you bring up the 1-1-1. He can do it quite easily in these positions. In particular, I'm always so scared about this formation that is right next to that Zelnaga watchtower, where all you need to do is begin sieging up, and you can easily begin working your way into the main base in the mid-game. It's a little harder with the 1-1-1 to begin pushing from quite that far back, but even right where this probe is a very vulnerable location. You can siege up and hit that ramp with tanks.
Oh, Day 9, I do agree with you so much. That push distance is relatively short. You always have the threat of the medevac elevator. Anytime you have vision of the main base of your opponent with tanks on the low ground, it becomes very, very difficult to deal with. So that is something that NightEnd's going to have to be very, very mindful of. Something that we've seen Protoss players doing, especially recently when dealing with things like 1-1-1 aggression, is warping in on the low ground with Zealots, attacking from 2 sides and setting up a really nice flank and just crushing it. That becomes much harder in these positions because you're pushing along this path where the warp in's going to happen. You're going to have vision of that high ground. You're going to be able to take out that pylon, and you're really going to force Protoss to work hard to set up that good flank.
Yeah, I mean, I do definitely think that one of the big keys to starting to hold off those 1-1-1 plays is the use of that chrono boost, realizing how essential it is to identify your opponent is not expanding. Save that chrono boost, get a good sense of what he's doing, because if you can get just 2 extra warp-ins of units from a decent number of gateways, you can deflect it fairly easily. That's what these Protoss players like Hero have started to figure out. But at this point in time, as much as we've talked about the 1-1-1, still no sign at all of what Puma has in store for us. Same in Camp NightEnd. He is just very standardly opening with a very fast core.
Yes, absolutely, you are correct. Something that I love about Puma's play is he always opens the exact same way. He always gets the 1 Rax and the 1 gas, then he gets out that Marine, and he forces his opponent to guess. NightEnd is now in the dark, and we can see that Puma is not throwing down a factory or a starport. He's getting a 2nd barracks. He's adding a reactor on his 1st barracks. So what in the world could he be doing with this 2 Rax opening?
You know, I definitely love the sort of 2 Racks that Puma's going to be doing on this map. You end up with about 5 Marines, 1 Marauder as concussive shells finishing up, and you just go straight for an early containment push. It's another way of Puma saying, I want to early expand, but ugh, look at that huge space. It's way too difficult to on this map. NightEnd, though, is kind of poking around. He's getting that early 2nd gas, which, rather than do the early expands, this is what players have been doing more and more. What's your opinion on this fast double gas play?
Well, you know, I think Protoss players with the fast double gas, they're just saying, hey, I want to be a little bit extra safe. I might want to get my robo up before I expand. I might want to just get a bunch of sentries out. It gives him that added buffer. He has options now. He's not forced into a very streamlined path. Whereas if he were just going to go, you know, 1 gate expo off of a single gas, he's very, very limited into how quickly he can tech and to how quickly he can start macroing out those gas-heavy units.
Looks like that first Marauder's popping out. 2 more Mariners en route. Does have this sneaky little SCV. I love this positioning of this SCV. He can just slip right on in, check out what's up with the expansion. No big deal figuring out when his opponent could be doing that timing or not. And man, look at NightEnd playing real safe. 3 gates. He's doing like his PVZ style opening.
Oh yeah, he's showing a lot of respect for Puma here. He says, okay, I don't really know what you're doing. I haven't gotten a good scout of your main. All I know is that you got a barracks and a gas.
But as we see, sentries don't actually do real damage. So the SCV gets to walk in, spots everything.
Yeah.
Nothing doesn't get spotted.
Most thorough scout you could ever hope for. That's actually one of the reasons why a lot of Protoss players opt to get a couple of stalkers out first. But unfortunately for NightEnd, he did allow his opponent to get a nice big scout of his base. Now Puma knows exactly what's up. NightEnd actually throwing down a proxy pylon over here on the other side of the map. What in the world? Is he going to get aggressive?
Puma's doing a brilliant job concealing his strategy, and oh, here comes all the Marine Marauders, and it looks like they do spot the pylon. Perfect timing, maybe he can get a cancel off. He does not.
Wow, what excellent, I guess, game sense here by Puma, just saying, hey, I'm going to go check and see if you've got a proxy pylon right outside my third base, and sure enough, there was one. Even going to track down this probe, so there's going to be no more chances for shenanigans. So NightEnd now having to, I guess, give up any hopes of being aggressive off these 3 gateways, throwing down his expand and saying, all right, let's just take it to stage 2 of the macro game.
I like it how long Puma kind of hid what he was doing. It wasn't just that he went for the 2 racks and held. He went for the 2 racks and put the reactor barracks at the front. That's what you'd see if a 1-1-1 was coming. He moved out with just 4 Marines and none of his Marauders. That's what you'd see if a 1-1-1 was coming. And now with this push en route, NightEnd could potentially be caught off guard. He did spot those Marauders, so he has a decent number of units, but this is still a very intimidating force. And look at that, Stim nearing completion right now.
Oh, goodness. Bunker's going to go down. This is going to force NightEnd to react here. He might have to cancel this Nexus. This is a really scary bio ball, Sean. Oh, my gosh. So the first damage coming in onto that Nexus, the army of NightEnd stuck up at the top of that ramp. He doesn't really want to come down here. He doesn't want to commit to this because he realizes that he just can't engage that force, especially with the bunker there.
Ooh, and it looks like we see the Stalkers taking some good damage. NightEnd may very well have to cancel. This is like a huge loss at this stage in the game. His early Nexus down. Meanwhile, in Puma's base, ooh, everything is looking oh so good, and the Nexus gets canceled. And Puma is now moving down to try to break this contain, but I don't know how well it's going to work.
Oh, NightEnd throwing down a couple of force fields, but the bunker is up, and there are Marines inside, and the army of NightEnd taking quite a bit of damage. Bunker falls, all the Marines getting dealt with. Pretty good force fields by NightEnd, and Puma realizing, all right, I might need to back it off here. He's done some pretty good damage here.
One thing that you need to be very worried about in Puma's position, he has only 2 barracks. He cannot really replenish any lost units very well, but I mean, the Marine Marauder looks like they're fast enough that they're going to be able to get away. Stim is finished. NightEnd, these 3 Stalkers are going to be pivotal, but he can't get too far away. He must be very, very cautious at this phase.
He force fielded the ramp. It doesn't look like he's not even going to try. He's just going to stop there in the middle of the map, take back some of that map control, throwing down that Nexus now. So NightEnd also has his Robo up, so this means he's got a little bit more access to tech. He's getting an Immortal first, but we've been seeing a lot of Warp Prism play, especially recently. I would love to see something like that here.
NightEnd is just playing as calmly as he can, doesn't want to get too overeager. It looks like Puma does spot that one observer. Oh, and he gets it, so that is a very well-spent scan.
Yeah, excellent job denying that extra scouting, keeping NightEnd as in the dark as he possibly can. NightEnd did manage to see that there's a command center there and a reactor on the starport, so he knows medevacs are coming, and he also knows that the expansion is going to be up. So in terms of just...
and he gets it! Oh, that was an extremely nicely timed force field, man, just to nab absolutely everything that was trying to move down that ramp. They are trapped up on the high ground. NightEnd's timing impeccable with this push. And Puma's going to have to float on home.
What a great equalizer here. He's going to be able to sit down at the bottom of this ramp and force field basically until medevacs are out to shuttle some units down. Another scan picking off that observer. Very nice play by Puma. NightEnd saying, all right, I should probably just let him have it.
And at this point, Puma, this is exactly what he wants to see. He pokes in. He can even just click on these mineral fields, or hell, just see that there's not even any probes there and realize that expansion is very fresh. Now NightEnd is on the retreat. The medevacs are out, and it's not going to be a drop play by Puma, but rather a straight-up frontal attack.
Oh, Concussive Shell is going to tag one Stalker, but it... Oh, look at Puma just stimming a single Marauder running forward once again. Very nice play. Medevacs and a couple Marine Marauder pushing up into the front of NightEnd's base, and NightEnd is, well, he's poised to defend this, Sean.
Gosh, NightEnd is just dancing the thinnest of edges right now. I mean, after you lose your expansion to suddenly say, all right, sweet, time to get Colossi. I mean, you basically have no time, but NightEnd manages to get barely enough out. He does have this Colossus, but it's not going to have range, and with this force from Puma, this could be very, very dangerous. NightEnd's going to have to position this very nicely.
And both these guys just sort of playing patty cake here. It looks like Puma doesn't quite want to engage with the Colossus out. NightEnd going to give chase. I'm not completely sure I agree with this. If those Marauders just stemmed and ran around, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Colossus takes a lot of damage right away, but the force field's coming down. Whoa, NightEnd with some great control.
NightEnd manages to nab all of those units, and look at that. Resources lost amazingly, about double for Puma. You'd think it would be the exact opposite with that cancel at the start of the game with those nabs on those force fields, but I mean, NightEnd really knows the power of those sentries early on, not just doing the defense that you were mentioning earlier on, but also taking some very aggressive opportunities with them.
Oh, he's going to throw down 3 more gateways. He's chrono boosting out that Colossus range upgrade. I don't know if he has any intention of taking a third base here, as he's just pumping out so many units and gearing up for a big mid-game push. Puma, on the other hand, he's starting to really hammer out the Vikings, queuing up 4 at a time. He's got a bit of a drop coming here into the back of NightEnd's base. Will NightEnd spot this drop?
Well, it looks like NightEnd just admits that taking a third might be too dangerous. Going to build all those gateways, as you said. And the drop play by Puma is going to have to be very carefully done. I mean, Puma only just now getting barracks 4 and 5. Ooh, that's like really, really late. He has almost no ability to rebuild these lost armies. He's actually just going to leave these 3 medevacs there as kind of a counterattack option.
Yeah, I think he's got the control of this tower, so if he sees NightEnd push out, he can just go and drop and force NightEnd to back up. It's going to buy Puma the crucial time he's going to need to muster up enough forces to give an adequate defense. NightEnd is doing a nice job of splitting up his army as well. He's got some Stalkers and a Colossus in the main that can quickly respond to a drop should it come. And, you know, the next question on my mind is, at what point does NightEnd say, okay, time to push?
Yeah, I mean, NightEnd needs to try to get some sort of nice timing, kind of synced up with a +1 upgrade or with that Zealot with charge. Because, I mean, if you're trying to do that much stuff at once on 2 bases, you're essentially banking on one big play. If you have 3 bases, maybe even trying to get a 4th at some point, it's a little more reasonable to sit back and be patient. But at this point, NightEnd's building up a lot of momentum, but he's kind of putting all his eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I do agree. Anytime you make a big 2-base all-in push like this, it's exactly what we just said. It's all in. There is no next step to the game plan. So NightEnd is adding in lots and lots of units up to 132 supply. Puma doing a good job of keeping up in the macro. He's also at about 132 supply, and his Viking count is getting quite high. He's up to 8 Vikings, which is going to... It'll make pretty short work of these relatively low Colossus numbers. You know, NightEnd's just working off a single robo.
It's quite clever. I mean, if you look at NightEnd in the unit station, he has 3 Colossi, and that's it. He is all gateway production. He's only spending his money on upgrades, probes, warping in more units, getting in those Zealots, trying to negate the effectiveness of those Vikings. And this is honestly a really sort of weird face-off that these players are doing. Nice little pick-off there with that Marine, managing to nab that single probe. Cuts the Marine in half.
Man, I'm scratching my head a little bit here, as NightEnd is taking a 3rd base, and this just feels like a really, really late 3rd to me. But if we look over here in Puma's base, he's also got no sign of a 3rd command center. He's got the SCV over there as if he's gearing up to take it. But both these guys basically content to sit back and just play defensive, it looks like.
This is going to be a huge moment. I mean, if Puma can do a lot of damage here, well, actually, it's whoever does the most damage in this battle, honestly, is going to be the victor. There's no real way for the Terrans specifically to rebuild very easily at all. We do see those 3 ghosts are popping out. But, ooh, they're left at home. He's going to have to get those into the fray. These 3 medevacs still geared up to do some sort of counterattack. And it looks like NightEnd is very nicely positioned. +1 almost done. He needs a few more seconds.
Here comes that drop, Sean. And NightEnd's army is completely out of position. He had it split up very, very nicely, but he brought everything together, consolidating it also that he could deal with his push coming from the front. There's a lot of units unloading in the main base of NightEnd. He does split up his army nicely. At the same time, Puma threatening to attack from the front.
Oh no, and it looks like managing to do a lot of damage, and it's just the Speed Zealots at the back of the base. He's going to be able to pick off a lot of those Speed Zealots before he's going to be able to easily load back up into those medevacs. And there it looks like Puma does some massive damage and gets away unharmed.
Massive is the understatement of the century. 21 workers killed for virtually no units lost. A very, very... such a strong drop there. NightEnd now has to do something. He's canceled that 3rd Nexus, and he's just going to go attack.
Yeah, I mean... Although this might seem risky, this is the exact way Puma has lost again and again in those major tournaments. We do see in that army supply tab, Puma does have a slight bit of an edge. But if you look at the medevac count, he has 4 medevacs, only 1 at the front, the other 3 reserved back for these drops. NightEnd gets scanned, and it looks like NightEnd will pull back, but he can't give in to too much defense at this point. He needs to do some kind of action to push Puma back.
Yeah, Puma's just keeping NightEnd's entire army at bay without even really confronting it. He's threatening to drop over and over and over. We see the 3rd medevac down at the bottom half of the map looking for the 3rd base of NightEnd, and when it gets there, he's going to be like, hey, what? You didn't take a 3rd at all. NightEnd is at about 160 supply. It puts him a solid 40 supply behind his opponent, and he's still 20 workers down.
Yeah, I mean, things are looking increasingly grim for NightEnd, but keep in mind, if NightEnd can get one strong push, synced up with this 2-2, it's going to be very difficult for Puma to have an answer. I mean, with only 5 barracks, you can't really get the gigantic army that you need quickly if you end up losing a lot of your units. Meanwhile, on this bottom side, it looks like Puma again going to try to deny this 3rd base attempt. This is giving NightEnd increasingly fewer options.
Oh yeah, canceled once again is that 3rd base. Puma's 3rd base is completely up. It's not quite mining yet, but he'll be able to transfer workers over there whenever he chooses to do so, and it looks like the worker transfer is coming from the main now, just as Puma completely mines out that main base. So things looking really, really nice for Puma. As you said, though, I mean, he's only got the 5 racks. He doesn't really have a whole lot of extra reinforcement capability. So if NightEnd were able to completely stuff the army, he might be able to close out this game still.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a fun, it almost looks like Steps of War again, where no one can really expand, but no one exactly wants to attack either. Both players are building up these giant death armies and then just carefully parking them defensively. This is a nice observer positioning. It looks like Puma completely overlooked that observer. It's actually quite well hidden there on those plates. Puma now moving down to the south side. I do not like this angle at all. This is really, really dangerous.
Yeah, NightEnd knows exactly where where the army of Puma is. I have to ask you, Sean, do you feel like there's been too many Vikings produced? There's 16 Vikings in that army. They're soaking up a lot of supply.
We can confirm that he hates Colossi.
Yeah, there's only 6 Colossi now for NightEnd. 37 probes. He just stopped building workers. He's like, all right, I'm going to take that loss and just use it to have a bigger army.
You know, that's actually a great point, actually, coming to the army supply tab. Look at that, 37 workers. No one's actually making any workers. And it's kind of funny, you know, that there was that big study that popped up on Team Liquid about how literally the more workers you build, the higher the league you end up in. So right now we have NightEnd sort of sitting comfortably in Platinum League level. Puma's a high diamond at this rate, and this one medevac at the back, oh god, it's going to do so much damage. That Templar's going to need to be in perfect position. And it looks like he's going to go for it, Mr. Bitter.
Indeed he is. He's pushing out, and he's killed the single Marine watching that tower. Man, NightEnd just doesn't want to commit. He goes forward, then he backs up. He goes forward, then he backs up. Puma, I mean, he's just building up more and more of a surplus, and eventually Puma's going to throw down like 1,500 barracks, and it'll be impossible to kill his army ever.
And oh no, 2-2 upgrade about to finish. That one medevac at the back corner. He's starting to move on in. Will the High Templar be able to do a feedback?
I don't think NightEnd's paying much attention. He actually has no vision of it at all. NightEnd does get up to the gold base on Puma's side of the map, so he's got...
oh no! Oh, he gets it.
Huge feedback there. NightEnd does manage to spot that, shutting down the drop play there of Puma. Puma's army is massive, but it's kind of clogged up in a choke no matter where NightEnd attacks from. Puma's got to get everything quite clustered.
Oh, and there's the Vikings, and they managed to take down one Colossus with a clean single shot. Puma has an absurd income, ton of money in the bank, and it looks like NightEnd's carefully repositioning to have an adequate retreat path to go back home and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, scratching my head still. He's added in 4 more workers, so now he's up to 40 probes, which is almost enough to saturate his 2 bases. You know, though, well, here we go. Puma's starting to push out. I'm starting to wonder if maybe this might work out for NightEnd, because he does essentially have 15 more supplies tied up in his army. He's been maxed long enough to where he's got enough money to maybe reinforce 1.5 times, you know. And the Protoss army, I guess it comes down to the EMPs, but I do feel like this Protoss army is going to be doing a ton of damage.
Yeah, this Protoss army, I mean, even with those EMPs landing, the Colossi can get a few nice shot off. That is a lot of Archons. 8 full Archons in the fray right now, and it looks like Puma is starting to move forward. Will he be able to get those good shots off with the Vikings?
Oh! Archon's doing quite a bit of splash on those Vikings.
Take some severe damage. Oh no, the Vikings are all getting obliterated at the front lines. The Colossi are really starting to fall, and it looks like this is going to be a very severe engagement right now for the Terran player. He's trying to micro as best he can, but with those nice EMPs, it looks like Puma is able to push the army back quite a good bit, but not that many medevacs. NightEnd getting some nice damage off with those near-dead Colossi.
Whoa.
And uh-oh, some more Zealots morphing in here.
Colossi still in the fray. There's 2 Colossi left, a couple of Archons, and the reinforcements are coming. The supply is only 15 supplies separating these 2 armies, but there's a 20 supply difference in workers, so the army size is quite similar.
Oh, the SCV is taking massive damage. NightEnd is killing off a ton of these workers. Puma, though, has a pretty decent army that he is rebuilding. He does have these 2 Colossi, a 3rd Colossi now joining the fray, and it looks like all those Vikings are now dead. There is a nuke on the field, which means this game could become kick-ass.
Yes, indeed. NightEnd still just kind of jockeying for position. Puma doesn't want to give it to him. Only a single ghost there in that army.
Ooh, this is not a good angle at all for NightEnd. Well, good. He moved in to kill off the statue. A very aggressive tactical play.
Nobody likes the main statue. A little bit of a stem coming down here. Well, can he pick off a Colossus? No, it looks like he cannot. Both these guys really just trying not to let the other player outmaneuver in terms of army positioning.
Stunning control right now by NightEnd, but the macro from Puma is really kicking into high gear. There's the stim. Holy arc, incredible play by Puma, extending all his units around, and it looks like not the best EMPs, but there are still so many Marine Marauders that he is doing massive damage. The Viking pulling around at great angles. It looks like Puma's control will be able to come out on top. An absolutely phenomenal display there by Puma, and he manages to clean up the army of NightEnd.
Oh man, GG.
And there it is.
Puma will take game number 1. It was really a tense battle there at the end. I wasn't sure which way it was going to go, but as you said, the Marine Marauder control of Puma was just too good, spreading out those units beautifully so that the Colossi and the Archons could only do so much splash, and at the end of the day, upgraded bio is really tough to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, Puma really kind of demonstrated in that game that even if you have the losing composition, it doesn't matter if you have so many expansions up, because once you trade armies, Puma just kept rebuilding faster and faster and eventually overtook the game.
Yes, indeed. So that was an awesome game 1. We will be setting up game 2 here shortly, but before we do that, we're going to kick it to a short commercial break.
So don't go anywhere. Game number 2 between Puma and NightEnd.